Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to WR Season 19. This is PC Tier 4, where tonight it's time for round 2 at the Singapore Street Circuit. I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Mitsky, and as per usual, I'm joined by Jivudar.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're here for a very exciting race around the Marina Bay Street Circuit. Obviously, one of the most difficult on the calendar, or should I say, the most difficult on the calendar. Obviously, a lot of left-right corner chicanes, that walls always close to the track. When you drive fast, walls are left, right, and center. So we'll see what happens with qualifying in the race. There will supposedly be a lot of action, for sure.
There will be indeed, as we're currently switching the lobbies. There were some settings that still had to be set up, but that should be fine for now. And I think all things considered, we should have a full grid lineup tonight, so there'll be 20 drivers participating in the race. One driver that will be absent is a driver that came in second last week. That's Joel Lindstrom. He's a reserve driver, and he won't be driving tonight. Whereas the Williams drivers in Dennis Langrock and Miao, who scored a 1 and 3 last race, will be present. Dennis, of course, getting the race win last time out. Miao was the one coming home in third. And then to complete the top 5 was Nicolino and Elko when we were last week in Austin. And I think all things considered, Yuvadar, was quite a decent race last week out.
Yeah, obviously pretty exciting considering it's tier 4. I know a lot of people, most of them are just calm and collected. Sometimes it can get spicy, as we saw in the penultimate laps of Kota. Mr. Pike in particular, the chat was saying quite a few things about him, but that's a story for another time. Stewart had a little bit of a say in some of the incidents. I believe Mr. Pike got like 8 penalty points, so it is not looking too great with penalties.
No,
El Rey
correct.
got 5, and then Meow got reported for an incident that I don't really agree with, but it's okay.
Yeah, if we just go through the incidents, there were 7 incidents that were reported, and there was no further action on the penalty removal for Miska Haikala. There was a 3-second time penalty for the incident of Mr. Pike with Miska Haikala. Elko also tried to get his penalty removed. That didn't happen either. Mr. Pike also got 5 seconds for the incident with Joel Lindstrom. And there was no further action on Mr. Pike and Ellery Greery's incident. It's a 3-second time penalty to Meow for the incident with Ellery Greery. And there were 5 penalty points to Ellery Greery for the incident reported by Meow because of cutting corners. And indeed adds up to the penalty points you mentioned. 8 for Mr. Pike, 5 for Ellery Greery, and 3 for Meow. And yeah, as you already heard, that was the top 5 last week out. Today, though, we're in Singapore, and where last week we had a lot of leeway if you were, well, at least going off the track a little bit. Today, those walls are going to be a lot closer.
Yeah, and obviously in Kota, one of the most difficult tracks in terms of track limit invalidations and warnings, which is not really a problem, I'd say, for Marina Bay. Obviously, you can still invalidate in qualifying, especially when you try to just cut a curb a bit too much for whatever reason. It's particularly just turns 1, 2, and 3. Like on the exit of turn 1, when you go wide on the curb, you can just go slightly wider, and that would invalidate your lap. But apart from that, I don't think there are really that many spots where you can get an invalidation. Maybe around, I believe it's turn, I don't know, what is it? Just before the bridge, like when you cut the curb on the right.
Yeah, turn
But
8. Definitely one of the options. I think further down the line, that would be turn 11, I think. Let's see. No, there's a detection after turn 12. So that will be turn 14 is what it is. And the corner you mentioned was turn 11, sorry. It's just after
yeah.
the slingshot. Well, used to be the chicane. But it's just a Singapore sling now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
little bit more
a few areas where it's definitely possible to get track limits. And the final corner, of course.
Yeah, final corner, but if you have a good setup, you can just go flat out. I don't think it will be that big of a deal. Last corner is flat on this game, even in race trim. In qualifying, it's pretty easy. You can take it with overtake button on, so that's pretty nice. And that's why the track is much faster than it was last year. So obviously they removed the chicane, the first chicane through sector 3, so it's now just a long straight as it was last year. I believe they removed it for 23, but then it's gonna get reverted, I believe, soon, because it looks, I don't know, something they're doing on the track, renovations.
Well, the track has indeed changed quite a few times since it was first on the calendar in 2008. We, of course, remember the slingshot chicane. You mentioned the change to the track that was made as late as of last year. It was indeed 2023, the first time that we did that. So there was always something going on in this track. And one thing in particular that we pretty much always see, I think the only exception was this year and the 2024 race. But from 2008 into 2023, so 15 years in a row, it had the unique record of having at least one safety car per race. So that makes this track ever so more difficult. And another thing that makes the track troublesome for some is the pit lane time loss here is 27.2 seconds, one of the longest on the F1 calendar. So all these things the drivers have to consider, but usually with what we see in the F1 game, Yuvidar, I think we can definitely expect at least 2 safety cars tonight.
Yeah, especially considering the field is so close. The qualifying, usually the gaps are of like 2-3 tenths, and from P1 you can go down to P11 or just P15 when it's really a short track. But speaking of the pit lane, it actually has the most difficult pit entry that is on the calendar, because if essentially trying to maximize the speed that you carry into the pits, but it's a double left that you need to take whilst also braking. And if you go slightly wider on the curb, it's gonna spit you out into the track again. And not to mention, there's a wall very, very close to the pit entry on the right. We might see some driver kiss that wall with their front wing. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but I've seen it. It is funny, but
It can happen
not
a
for the
lot
driver.
indeed. It's a very, very tricky pit entry. It's also very easy to just overstep and to overshoot. And then after the first left corner, of course, you want to speed up a little bit, carry as much speed into the pit lane, which again means you need to brake just in time in order to avoid getting a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So there's a lot of things that the drivers will need to consider tonight. And the first driver that we'll be considering, as we see Ben Shawley make his way around turn 14, is that he will be the first one to start a lap, although one of the Kick Saubers is awfully close to him. He's now approaching the final few corners, so that's 15, 16, 17, and then we now go through turns 18, 19, and now we are on for our first hot lap of the evening.
Yeah, go down to turn 1, braking at just about the 50-meter board, carrying as much speed as you can. Clip the inside curve for rotation, but don't go too wide as it can hinder your traction quite a bit. On the start of the curb, cut that inside and go wide. Use all the track on the exit. Overtake, burn till about 50%. Then here, as the wall gets further from the track, you want to brake, kiss that inside curve. You can go all the way over it, depending on setup and right height. Through turns 8, I believe, turn 9, through this short straight. Then it's turn 10. You want to cut as much as you can. Turn 11 as well. Flat out, avoid the curb, get close to the wall, under the bridge, for the hairpin, braking down to third gear, 70% ERS, down to about 55. After the 100-meter board for turn 13, I believe, abuse the track limits on the exit. Well, not abuse, just go as much as you can over the white line. Go down on about 60 meters to the last chicane, mount over the curves, and then flat out to the last 2 corners. That is gonna be a lap of the Singapore Grand Prix.
Yeah, so there we had our lap. The next driver to come around, this Takubi, who actually goes 3/10 quicker. Quite a good run for him. I want to keep an eye on what Miao is able to do. Was already up a 10th roundabout in comparison to what Ben Shawley was able to do. I'm not sure how competitive his second sector time was, as we see more and more drivers put lap times on the board. Your last week's race winner, Dennis Langrock, currently in P3, with Stephen Vassell just improving the Alpine on to P2. But here comes Miao then, the final 2 corners, going flat out as well. How close can he get? He can only do a 16.3, so lost a little bit in that middle bit of the track, because he was up in that first sector compared to Ben Shawley, so must have lost 2 to 3/10 somewhere in between, as now Hazit and Pikarchis has also made their ways into the top 5. Let's see, Eni is currently not on for a lap. For Isfan Tamasi, he is not going flat out either. Jack Humphreys seems to be going around a little bit quicker,
Yeah.
although he should be on for one. Doesn't have a lot of overtake left anymore. Going a little bit slower there. I'm not sure how competitive this is going to be as he comes around the final 2 corners, but I think it might just be close enough. And it is enough for a 26.2. So it does put at least a banker lap in. Sarpilli just went round, but he has invalidated. I think Eni did as well. Although he's... yeah, that's first sector time is not competitive either. So drivers now heading into the pit lane. Few already coming out for their out laps. Brandon Clark and Nicolino are drivers that we should be keeping an eye on. As for your other drivers, they're now going to slowly get back into the pit lane and prepare themselves for a few more runs, because I think most of the drivers will be doing 3 to 4 runs here tonight in qualifying.
Yeah, 3 runs is probably to be expected from most people, just because the track is well, not particularly the track, because you know it doesn't have that long sector 3 anymore. It's just a straight and 2 corners effectively. So it's mostly just the wait time in the pits that's reducing the 4 runs down to 3, because you do not have time even to abort one and go in again on your hot lap. It's such a long pit lane. The wait time here is the longest that is on the calendar, I believe, or second longest probably. Mexico could be closer, but yeah, you just don't effectively have time to go for 4 runs. Like, if you maximize the time that you're out on track, maybe you can do it barely, but it's just not worth it at this stage. Because you just want to get a safe lap in at first and then attack later.
Driver who's definitely attacking now, that would be Brandon Clark, as he's on to try and put his first timed lap on the board. Currently have 12 drivers that have set a competitive lap time. The other drivers either invalidated or have not set a lap time just yet, as Brandon Clark goes with a 25.8. That's good, but he goes way off the track there. Does not get a track limit warning there because he lost a significant amount of time. Equally also messes up turn 8 as a result. We can see that the car is no longer really glued to the tarmac anymore after overshooting it there. But it seems now at turn 10, the Singapore Sling, the car's coming together a little bit better. A little bit of an oversteer moment before braking into 13.
Oh my.
He's tapped the wall quite a few times, but I don't think he's got any damage so far either there.
Yeah, no, probably not. Contact mode on this game is pretty unique, let's just say that.
As just doing a Lando.
Yeah, basically. But at least we don't have Monaco now, because if you saw at Legacy Division round 1, Paul is just who can tap the wall the hardest without getting damage. That's sort of what we see here, a little bit. It is funny.
In the meantime, he has come in. Nicolino, though, will complete a lap now. It's only good enough for 10th, so not really the lap that he was going for either. Mr. Pike currently on a lap as well, and to believe Elku and the Fake TV will be on for run 2, but I think Mr. Pike will be the next one across the line to try and get anywhere near the top 5 or maybe even above. As lap time actually good enough to beat provisional pole by over 2 tenths. Mr. Pike putting in a stonking lap time here, pretty much out of nowhere. But he does put that car up on front, at least for a time being. Takumi hasn't already invalidated, as Dennis Langrock is on for a lap now. It's your championship leader after one race. And in the first sector, only 9 thousandths of a second quicker. So will need to prove in the second sector. Overshoots though severely in turn 7. So that's his shot out the window for now.
Yeah, it's one of the most difficult tracks on the calendar. It's essentially a longer version of Monaco, so you cannot really get a fast lap time without risking, and obviously with the risk it carries the chance of invalidation, of a mistake. We're all humans. Even esports drivers do tap the wall and get damaged sometimes. It's a part of the sport. What can you do about it? We're all humans. We still got 2 runs in qualifying to go, so we'll see who can improve.
Currently a driver who's on for an improvement is Picarchis, was already a 10th up in the first sector, but with that just being a 25.8, could still be a little bit quicker, but now the middle sector improves by almost another 10th, so it's now a 10th and a half roundabout up on his own personal best. That would put it around a 26 dead. That would be enough currently for a P3, so not competitive enough to beat Mr. Pike's lap time as Miska Heikkila goes into P2 for now. But if he improves enough, Picarchis might go to P3 now. Can he beat his teammate for now, or can't he? And he does, and even beats Miska. That's a great final sector, 10th and a half that he still had in his hand there. And he now pushes his car up onto the front row, as I think Takumi, no, it's actually Eni who sets the fastest lap time. That's a driver we haven't seen too much either. I think he's one of our stand-in drivers. But that's another 2 tenths that he's gone on the entire field. And it looks like drivers are pretty much pulling out some great lap times, seemingly out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously such a difficult track with so many corners that you can't find a lot of lap time everywhere, basically, if you just full send. You got nothing to lose. You still got more runs in quali. Oh, TS Jack Humphreys, P6. That is pretty nice. Goes into the 25s as well. Currently only 6 drivers are into the 25s. But the pole lap time is half a second quicker than P6. That is an astonishing lap from Eni, not gonna lie. I don't really see that many people beating that, especially those who are not even in the 25s yet, as it is quite a big gap.
Well, Steven, on the other hand, does get quite close, actually matching Mr. Pike's lap time on the nearest 1,000 as Takumi now goes into P2. Steven had a pretty good run there as well, 3 tenths up on his previous lap time, but still not close enough to get within a 10th. He's 2 tenths away almost, actually, from Eni's lap time, although Takumi did go quite a bit quicker. Jack Humphreys currently not on a run. Same can be said about Hazith. Isfan Tomasi was not on for a run either. So I think most drivers are either heading into the pit, few are out on an out lap. And I think the driver furthest ahead, let's see, Jack Humphreys won't be that. Might be Dennis Langrock even. Yeah, it will be Dennis Langrock. So he'll be the next one out on the lap. Remember, he is our championship leader. Does have enough time to put a lap in now, and in case he invalidates, should still have enough time to just quickly change tires and go around again. But he will need to make it stick, and he will need to do it soon. Half a second he needs to improve. And here goes Dennis Langrock's attempt.
Through into turn 1, clipping the curb pretty nicely so far. Misses the apex a little bit. That will lose him like half a tenth or so. But cutting the inside of turn 4, pretty nice, running wide on the exit to carry as much speed as you can for this straight. It's a 25-7 split, so it's a 10th up on his lap. That is a really good first sector so far from Dennis. Let's see if he can nail it through these couple of corners, as these are one of the most difficult corners on the track. And especially the ones coming up now, turn 10, you want to cut as much as you can. And he nails that one. Goes a little bit wider over the curb. You go under the bridge, down to third, flick it to the left. using overtake up towards turn 14, I believe it is 3/10 up. That is a great split from Dennis so far. Gets a good exit, maximizing the speed that he's able to carry out of turn 14 to turn 15 and 16. Good minimum speed, using overtake on the exit, flat out for turns 18 and 19. Across the line he goes, and it is P5. 25.744. It's a pretty solid lap from Dennis, but he needs to go quickly into the pits and then change tires and go again right at the end. But he will have time, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah, in the meantime, Meow does go up into second, but a lap time that I was particularly interested in was the one of Mr. Pike. He was up 3.5 tenths, but he has invalidated. So, realistically, Mr. Pike can go for a 25.3 here if he puts it all together, and that would be enough to snatch pole by quite some margin. So he will be the man to look out for in a moment when we go for some extra runs. And meantime, Herman Polyakov is up by 4/10, or was up by 4/10 in that previous lap. Don't think he's currently on for a lap. I see the indicator on the rear blinking, and he indeed is not carrying through all the speed that he did. Ben Shawley down a second. Fake TB currently up by about 2/10 as he heads into the final four corners. So he should be on for a decent improvement. That should be a 25.9, 25.8. So round about the time that Herman Polyakov was able to do, and he just goes one quicker even. It's 25.799. Puts him in P7 for now, but that might just be qualifying done. I'm not sure how much fuel he's got left in the tank. If he put in enough to go for an extra run, he can have a cooldown now and then put another flyer in. Otherwise, this might be qualifying for him already.
Yeah, it's quite a long track, mostly with the pit lane, so you don't really have that much time to work with, especially considering that 2 minutes left and lap time is 125, 126. You basically, either you're in the pits now or you're not gonna get a lap in, and Herman is gonna be insanely close on margin here. He's going into the pits. He's got 40 seconds till he needs to be out of the pits. I think that's qualifying over for him.
That might be qualifying over indeed, as we're currently watching Brandon Clark try to put his one and only lap on the board. He invalidated before. Seems to be fairly quick round this one, but in Sector 2, it's a little bit sloppy at times, getting awfully close to the wall, but he's not tapping it, and that's the main thing. So now then, we have to see how quick he can go through Sector 2. We saw that Mr. Pike did a 101.7 or so. Actually, Brandon Clark matching that. Might have been just a tad quicker, as he has a little bit of a moment exit turn 14. But Brandon Clark definitely on for quite a good run. Meow has retired from the session, so is Ben Shawley. They won't be improving anymore. And Brandon Clark needs to make it stick now. Just 2 more corners. Keep it between the lines and you will be good. He will be good indeed. That's a good final 2 corners, and it's enough for 25.9. Not enough to improve into the top 10, but good enough at least to put one on the board nicely. Kevin West has retired his car. Jack Humphreys, in the meantime, has started a lap time. I think Sarpili is currently on for a lap too, but Jack Humphreys should be able to improve at least quite a bit from that current P12. Needs to improve by 4.5 tenths if he went to contest for pole position, but is already down 0.5 tenth in that first sector.
Yeah, considering it's your final lap, you gotta just full send at this point. If you're down, you got nothing to lose. Forward wall situation. Well, not really, but just full send. You have nothing to lose. And through turns 10 and 11, right up to the walls, maximizing the track usage. Very close to the inside curb. You do not want to touch that inside, because it will just unsettle your car quite a lot. It's a 10.5 far. He's found 2 tenths so far in this middle sector, and it's pretty good. Onto the long back straight, I believe. I don't know if I can really call that a back straight. Probably. Through turns 16 and 17. Up towards, flat out to the line. It's a 25.7. Pretty good. He's found another 10th. That is a very good lap from Jack, putting P4 so far. But we got a lot of people still improving. We got Mr. Pike through the end, towards the end of his lap. He's a 10th and a half up. He's found time, but is he good enough for pole? We'll see in just about 5 seconds. To the line he goes, and he has lost out a lot of time in that last sector, unfortunately. As Stephen Vassell across the lines, 25.6, goes through into P4. What else have we got on the lap?
Oh, and he is
Dennis
quick.
Van, yeah. Hubi has invalidated, unfortunately.
Oh, look at that.
Uh,
Almost 3 tenths on the entire competition, as if his second lap wasn't good enough. He improves by another 2.5 tenths. Any with a pole lap time of a 1:25.270. That is quite a statement to make in qualifying. We haven't seen him that much in the first round, but here definitely does deliver. Meow, another solid qualifying for him. Takumi Stephen Vassell getting close to that too. And then it's Jack Humphreys, Mr. Pike, Dennis Lagrock, the fake TB Pikarchis, and then rounding off top 10, Herman Polyakov. And then it's Miska Haikala has it. Brandon Clark, Auriguri, Ben Shawley, Kevin West, Elku, Sarpali, Istvan Tavasi, and then finally Nick Kalino, despite a great result in race 1, will have to start all the way at the back for race 2. But that lap, once again, really came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't really see him in round 1. He joined after that, between the break, like the week between round 1 and round 2. And so far, he's looking great. Yeah, I mean, 3 tenths on anyone else is quite a statement to make, especially for a track that is pretty much, well, surrounded by walls everywhere. So you gotta really just full send to get that much lap time on anyone, really. And that is gonna be a very, very strong position for him for the race. Because we are gonna get a lobby restart because ghosting is enabled, as the effect of ghosting in qualifying is just a little bit too unrealistically big. Oh my goodness, it reminds me of the 2017 start.
Yeah, it was just as much as rain there. I mean, obviously you guys can't see what we're seeing right now. And they did have some rain now. Hopefully, I think at least for the drivers, we won't have any rain at the restart. But that does also mean that we should have a good 5, 6, 7 minutes before we will be getting ready for the main race here today. And everyone has retired for now, so that's good news. Gives us a little bit of time to rewind as well and to also prepare us for the for a pretty decently long race tonight. I think one of the longest on the calendar, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's 31 laps of a race. In real life, it takes so long. Like 62 laps around this circuit takes so long. It's so, well, it keeps you on your toes because it's like driving Monaco, but just with a little bit of margin of error, but not too much, you know. It's modular. You don't want to get too comfortable because walls are left, right, and center. And we're gonna see that a lot in the race, especially when you're fighting with other people. Yeah, if someone goes into a war and brings out a safety car, we'll see what the strategy game is, of course. It's very interesting, particularly for a track that is known for bringing out safety car after safety car, especially for with drivers that can get a little bit angry at others for the race. But yeah, driving standards are not really the best sometimes in races like this, where it's a lot of street circuits. You know, Jeddah is a great example, but Jeddah is a very fast circuit. It's not really a street circuit though. Like, this is a proper street circuit. You have no margin forever. One lockup and you're in the wall.
Yeah, when you do end up in a wall, it's very quickly that the safety car also does come out. So I think we can expect quite a few safety cars to come out on the 31 lap race. That also means that the drivers need to take that into consideration. How are you going to start the race? I think we're going to see a little bit of mix in strategy rather than most of the drivers just starting on the hards. Although I do think starting on the hards might not be too bad. If you're expecting 2 or 3 safety cars, starting on the hards, switching early and then just switching through maybe 2 times to mediums or so might not be too bad at all. But it really also boils down to just making the right call at the right moment and also being at the right place at the right moment. Because if you aren't, you might as well find yourself in the wall in just a moment's notice, and it can just be over in the blink of an eye. And also the race start, very key, easy to pick up damage here. Damage you do not want on this track either. It's going to cost you a lot of time. So strategy and staying out of trouble. I think those are going to be the main parts for tonight, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, there are gonna be a lot of drivers that are doing different strategies. Well, softs are not really used around here as the tire was pretty high. It's mostly either medium hard or hard medium. But with the safety car that is expected to come out, really you can go wrong very easily with the strategy because on this game, you can either go for 2 sets of hards, 1 set of mediums, or 2 sets of mediums and 1 set of hards. You cannot have both 2 sets of hards and 2 sets of mediums, which is a little bit strange, as it was in previous F1 games. But that makes it very interesting for strategies because if you start on the mediums and you have 2 sets of hards, let's say when the safety car comes out, you're gonna box for hards, and it's a dilemma. Are you gonna box or are you not going to? It's these different strategy crossovers, especially with the safety cars around this circuit, that just kind of bring the race very close, and everyone has different tire life, different tire compounds, pace is very different, a lot of fighting, a lot of chaos. It's very exciting race to watch. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and I think with the
Fireworks.
safety cars as well, I mean, you kind of don't just want to be up on front. The right call to make with the safety car situation is just doing what the others do. Because you will easily
Yeah,
go wrong if you make an offset strategy. And if you're just doing what anyone else does, it's very hard to go wrong because everyone else is doing it anyways. But if you are leading the pack, you have to make the decision, and you don't know what the others are going to do. Whereas if you're down into P4, P5, I think that's more of an ideal setting. You know, okay, this is what the guys ahead are going to do. Um, I'll probably be best off doing this and that. So I think a lot of the drivers will also have to make last minute decisions just based on what the drivers up ahead are going to do. And if it's a one safety car, then it perhaps
I
will work
doubt.
out better if you just go for medium hard. But I think it's likely if we're going to see 2 or 3. I know that the cap is set to 5, I believe,
Yeah.
which I'm pretty sure has been met somewhere before. I do sincerely hope that we don't get too close to that. But I think 2 or 3 safety cars are definitely in for tonight. And if you have 2 safety cars, I think you want to be starting on the hards and then 2 times switch for mediums. If you have more, you might want to swap around with that a little bit more, go medium, hard, medium. But I think the safest bet is just to start on the hards. If there's a safety car, just switch for the mediums. There will likely be another one, then just go for the hards. And if there, for some reason, is a safety car very late on the race, then you can always decide, okay, I'm going to go for the mediums, I'm going to go for softs. Or if there's still a very long way to go, you've used up quite a bit of those hards, get back to the hards that you started on. So strategy comes into play, but I think all things considered, even are, I think it's safest if drivers choose to start on the hards, considering how many safety cars we might get.
Yeah, but then there's also the dilemma that if you start on mediums, you box early for the hards, and the hards can inevitably go like the entire race without getting up into the puncher territory. From lap 5, 6, 7 ish around there, like lap 10 is the ideal lap for medium to hard, and you can go longer with the hard, obviously. It's like if another safety car comes out later on and you've already went for the hards, then there's the dilemma. Do I box again for mediums or do I just stay out? take track position, and hope fireworks come out behind me. It's very interesting with strategy because a lot of strategies just cover up each other, and usually that brings in a lot of chaos, especially around street circuits.
Exactly just like that. Now, in the meantime, we see the call from our lobby host to ready up, so we'll be getting started in about 2 to 3 minutes from now. But that also means that we have a little bit of time to look at the calendar to see what we have in store for you for WOR. So let's just quickly go to that calendar. We're now at round 2. Last week we were driving in Texas. Today it's Singapore. Next week we'll be going to Vegas. Then it's followed by a race at Silverstone. Then we go to Zandvoort, and then it's Hungary before we have our holiday break. So 6 races in a row, so 4 more to come in a row. Then we have the break, and then in January we resume with the calendar. Final 4 races in January. January 6th we go to China. 13th we move to Canada, to the Montreal Street Circuit. Then it's Austria for the Red Bull Ring, and then finally we visit Interlagos for the Jose Carlos Pache Grand Prix around Sao Paulo. That would be your season finale, and I think a very fitting end to the calendar because, let's be real, a season deserves to be ending in Brazil. In the meantime, though, it looks like we have made it into the game. I'm quickly going to change my overlay as well so you can see what is happening into the game. We've loaded in. It's dark, as you can see. It's one of the few night races that we have on the calendar. It was the first night race to also appear on the calendar. That was back in 2008. The 2008 race that you might remember due to Crashgate, but I won't be diving into that too much. So of course we're more considered with the esports world. We've already mentioned high chance for safety cars. 19 corners, one of the few counterclockwise tracks that we have on the calendar. Also 3 DRS zones. Detection after turn 17, the zone is start finish straight. Detection after turn 4, turn 5 to 7. Then we have detection after turn 12 and a zone from turn 13 to 14. And now in the real world they've also added a 4th DRS zone, which is the second back straight, but I don't think we quite have that here just yet. Yeah, of course, the slingshot chicane, as I mentioned. There's 3 corners that are worth mentioning. Turn 1, Shears corner. Turn 7, Memorial corner. That's the end of sector 1. Going left, and then it's the Singapore sling. Turn 10, which is in the middle of the second sector, which used to be the slingshot chicane. But now no longer is a chicane, just a simple left-hander. And then the final few things you need to know, 4.9 kilometers, but we're getting started with 4 and 5 red lights. And we are on our way with a drive-through penalty, a jump start for Sarpoli, so that's going to send him back, but it's the best start so far for Rennie. He's going to keep that race lead. There's a little bit of chaos in the back, and that's Mercedes caught up with one of the Red Bulls there, and it'll be Jack Humphreys, who I think has some front wing end plate damage. Either that, or it was, no, I think it was the McLaren he made contact with as front wing damage, and there we have yellow in sector 1 precaution. That's a full safety car, as if Fantomasi has retired. That went quick.
Yeah, I mean, drivers just trying to speed run this, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, 10-second time penalty for Picard. How do you pronounce that?
I think it's Picarchis, but it's not one of the easiest names to pronounce. What is interesting to see, though, is the strategy of the drivers, because 7 drivers have started on the softs. That's Eni, Stephen Vaso, Dennis Langrock, Mr. Pike, Herman Poliakov, Nick Kalino, and then our one and only retired for now is Fantomasi. The rest all started on the mediums, who already have a few penalties come in, as you mentioned. So 10 seconds for Picarchi to drive through for Sarpoli, but for Sarpoli, this is pretty much ideal because you can just dive it into the pit, get rid of that penalty. Picarchi likely will do the same thing. Or does it not eliminate that in the safety car?
No,
the drive-through? No, it does not.
Nope, it does not. You just box. You need to take the drive-through when there isn't a safety car. So that is pretty terrible for Sarpoli, not gonna lie, but you know, it slapped We didn't even make it to turn 4 and there was already a safety car. What's the chance there isn't gonna be another one, right?
Yeah, I think he'll be
Practically zero.
fine on that end. And looks like most of half of the grid has already come in. I think there's only just a handful just
They're
staying out.
boxing for
Sarpoli is
Inters 'cause
staying
it's gonna
out.
be raining.
Oh, it's raining! It is actually raining! They're boxing for Inters! I think this has caught quite a few drivers off guard. We're going to get even more chaos. We already had some incidents without the rain, and now we're going to have the remainder of the race likely in the wet conditions. Now, this surely does spice things up.
Yeah, it definitely does. And especially because the guys at the front, obviously you have your teammate very close to you, so if your teammate is ahead of you, you're gonna lose a lot of time in the pits, and you genuinely don't want to lose so much track position. Everyone who has stayed out on the dries is hoping that it does not switch to inter conditions by the time the safety car comes in, which will be at the end of the next lap, and hope that there is either another safety car or that the conditions just stay like this damp where dries are faster. But considering everyone apart from the top 4 went into the box for inters, it will be a very interesting decision in terms of strategy, so what you can do, because it's a gamble. You don't know if it's gonna rain a lot or it's just gonna be a slight drizzle. You don't know how much it's gonna rain, even if it does rain, as it already does. You don't know if it's if the game will decide that it is intermediate conditions or is it still considered dry. You know, the percentages of track wetness that you consider wet and dry, so it kind of makes sense. Oh, Hazef 10 seconds in the pit lane. That is not what you want to see, and he's gonna have to box again next lap. That is, yeah, unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. It'll be a little bit safer. I think I was just on board with one of the drivers. I was on board with Jack Humphrey, seeing how the rain is coming down, seeing how the asphalt is currently evolving. I think at the end of this lap, it will be pretty much intermediate territory.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see how Mr. Pike's gonna hang on.
It's interesting to see how long he's gonna hold on, because it's essentially puddles are already starting to form a little bit here and there.
Yeah, the rain's more intense now, I think.
Yeah, a lot more intense. And Mr. Pike, if that McLaren, if Pikarczyk does not catch the safety car, he is gonna have to stop 100%. But the problem is, even if he does not catch up, he's gonna be at the back, P18, P19 even, and yeah, that is not what you want to see in terms of strategy, because it's already raining. Of course, we don't know if it's gonna dry up later. You know, maybe it's just like a cloud or two, but looking at the clouds, looking at the sky, I can't really see anything, to be fair. It's pitch black. What can I do about it? Welcome to the night races. We love to see it. But yeah, he's not gonna catch up, so Mr. Pike will have to go into the pit. If he doesn't, I'm gonna give him a medal or something, because it's gonna be pure bravery.
Well, there we go. He has decided to pull into the pit lane. He also knows it's getting too wet.
Yeah, and also be very careful on the pit entry, because you can do just like what Hazef did. You know, it's raining, it's damp, you're on medium, you're on dries. It's so easy to lock up going into the pits and just kiss a wall, your tire pops, boom, you're out. Or either that, or just lock up into the pits and speed. It's not what you want to see, but it does happen often. because it's a really difficult pier entry. You can't blame him, you know, everyone can do mistakes. But yeah, Annie is currently on P1 still, followed by Meow and Tehubi. Pretty solid so far, as we haven't really had much action. But yeah, the pits definitely did change, did swap some things around, I believe. Like the bottom 5 were all sort of at the front, but then they decided not to box, so they lost a boatload of track position. And there are a lap fresher tires is not gonna get you far because it's under a safety car, so you don't really get any tire wear that much. But yeah, the top 4 kept their positions, but everyone outside of that is up by quite a bit, especially Elku and Nicolino. Both Evershow drivers are up 6 places since they started. The Evershow glaze is real. I can't lie, chat. Yeah, safety car in this lap though. We're ready to see some action, especially as the drivers definitely have not done wet practice for this. I know, no one practices, Ray. It's purely going off of driver feeling. You don't really have... Skill comes in, experience as well. Talent, yeah, sure. But yeah, skill and... Let's see when he starts, actually. That's gonna be interesting. When does he want to start this?
Well, he's already done. Just before turn 18, he puts the power to the metal. And it looks like it's a great start for one of the Ferraris around the back. That is the Fake TV, who's already side by side with Stephen Vasso and has gone the overtake on. Stephen having a little bit of an understeer moment, but he does go for the send into turn 4. Side by side they go now. Really good fight, but one of the Williams drivers is starting to get involved, and that's pushing the Alpine round the outside, and he's now lost 2 positions as a result. Just that little bit of a moment in turn 19, that little bit of wheel spin, that has cost him, but he's not given up yet. But he also needs to look in his rearview mirrors because side by side they almost go, and Ferrari's been passed, and it's Dennis Langrock who's up in P4, and Meow has been overtaken by Takubi. A lot of overtakes all over the track. It's still showing safety car, which of course definitely isn't the case. We've made it around the track a lot further than we did on regular start, but actually Eddie has pulled a 1.3 gap already to Takubi.
Yeah, I mean, he had great pace in quali, so great pace so far in the rain, as it looks. But I believe in about 2 or 3 laps, the... Wait, no, what DRS? What am I talking about? Strategy will be key, because you don't want to stop again, I believe, if there is another safety car. But again, what's the chance there isn't going to be another safety car, right? It's intermediate conditions Singapore, 100% rain, right? Surely. It's a matter of when, not if. I know you're hearing my parents in the background, by the way. Apologies for that one. Fast lap for Eni though, 40.871. Already got a 1.5 gap to Tehubi, and that is looking great so far. Very controlled. That restart. And yeah, he's looking to build quite a gap now.
In the meantime, we're just watching Brandon Clark as he's ghosted out a little bit. He went very deep into turn 1. Tried to make a move. There's a lot of contact now with the RB driver, but they do keep it on the track for now, though Ben Shawley has managed to make that overtake stick, so great effort by him. Sarpoli has got into the pit lane in the meantime. That is to get that drive-through penalty. He's now 20 seconds behind. It looks like Ben Shawley just had a little bit of a moment. That allows El Reguiri to come through in the middle. I think Brandon Clark might have gotten a little bit of damage because he did tap the wall there at the end of turn 8. But he's still awfully close to the back of that Haas. But look at that. They're all over each other. Nicolino's now gone past Miska Haikala. So he's now up in P12. He's getting closer to the back of Elku. But pretty much all the way down for P8. That's where the gap really starts. Up ahead, gap's a little bit bigger. Dennis Langwork's getting closer to Meow, so that's good for him. But the real fight starts over at P8. And then it's all the way down to P18 with the drivers are neck to toe with one another.
Yeah, obviously, it's rainy. It's intermediate conditions. Whoever has gotten used to driving in the wet, maybe you live in the UK. Who knows? Rain, you see it every day there. But yeah, it's you're driving on feel at this point. No one practices rain conditions. The Fago overtakes Meow, goes up to P4, and the pace for him is looking great. He's already made 4 places alongside Dennis. They started next to each other, and they're next to each other on track now. Both 4 places up in P3 and P4, looking to close that gap to the front 2, which have certainly pulled away. It's a 2-second gap between P1 and P2, and then P2 and P3. It's looking great for them in terms of pace, as they are still extending the gap to Dennis Langrock. But, Mr. Pike and Kevin Hughes, battle for P15. That is very interesting.
Let's see if we can go for that. We just saw that Mr. Pike's gotten past, so he is about 2 tenths ahead now of Kevin West.
Oh, behind them.
And behind them, indeed, fight going on as well, where Hassett wants to make a move onto Picarchis. They're pretty much tagging each other forward, but I wonder if that McLaren's got some front wing end plate damage. We see Hassett taking very much different lines compared to the McLaren driver up ahead, and he might go for a send here down into turn 14, but decides, at least for now, to stay behind. And we can now also confirm that there is no damage for the McLaren up ahead, but Hassett definitely seems to be quicker. Now then, round the outside, wants to make a move, has the side against it, but look at how wet it is. The rain really coming down even more than it already was, and the drivers, even on the inters, are now starting to struggle. We know that the wet tire is not one that you see very often, but, Yevodar, I think if this continues, we might be heading to that crossover point.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously raining a lot more than it was 2 laps ago. And the track is looking very, very wet at this point. I'm not sure if full wets are currently faster. We'll see if anyone dares go on that. But I believe it's not worth at this stage, because it's simply too big of a gamble, considering everyone is next to each other. Maybe there's a safety car. Obviously, if you box now, you're risking getting screwed over by a safety car, which, considering the conditions and the track, it's a deadly combination. One mistake and you're heading straight for a wall. That you do not want to risk anything in these conditions. Whoever's feeling comfortable in the rain.
Oh, what a move.
What
a move. Attempt at least by Auriguiri. He wanted to get past Van Shawley. Didn't make it stick, but did go for quite the send there into turn 13. Very opportunistic move, but sadly did not work out for him. And now a little bit of wheel spin on the exit that will help. Brandon Clark just behind it, but Auriguiri definitely quicker than Ben Shawley up ahead. He's going to go for the inside, tries to outbrake his opponent. They do keep it on the track nicely. There is enough space still for Ben Shawley. For Auriguiri, he's still on the outside and will have to yield once more. A big slide coming out from Ben. And now, the Haas driver needs to get past there as soon as possible. The rain really is coming down so hard. It's really starting to turn into a storm. Oh, that's a late send! And that is not on. That will also cost Auriguiri a little bit. But that move was definitely a lunge from just a bit too far.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that in Kota, round 1, of course. He's not the cleanest of overtakers sometimes, but it's fun to watch at least. I'm sure Ben will have some words with the stewards for that one, but yeah, they're already 4 seconds behind the leading train, which is not particularly great. But yeah, it's really interesting now. The gaps have started to form, and there always quite a bit of a train.
White?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, Ben is really not feeling it in these conditions. Whatever is up with the setup is not cooking. goes defensive here in hopes of keeping that position, but I don't think he'll keep it for very long, as they're losing more and more time to the cars ahead. The gap's now 3.5 seconds, and it's only growing more and more. Yeah, he's got no traction, but to be fair, so has everyone else. They're really struggling now on traction as the rain is coming out even more. What a move though. Very lovely from El Rey. Still a bit of contact made, but what can you do about it? So far.
Had a
Not the
big
cleanest.
oversteer moment there, going for the overtake into turn 16. Ben wants to cut back on him though, but it was well managed at least by El Rey. And he got a pass, so he is now in PA. 4.2 seconds the gap now to the drivers up ahead. As we see further down the line that Eni is starting to get under a little bit more pressure from Takubi. That gap was within a second. It's now moved just outside the 1 second window. Then as Langrog's also starting to get a little bit closer with the fake TB, also within half a second of him. Meow's fallen back significantly. Stephen Vasso also feels more pressure by Herman. And Herman and Stephen are pretty much side by side. Stephen taps the wall there. Herman has now gone past. It was a bit of a moment for Stephen, but I wonder, is there damage there? His front wing and plates still seem fine, so that's good news for him. But the pressure from Herman getting a little bit too much, and I really do wonder when the first drivers are going to come in for some pit stops, because it looks like we've had the crossover point already. I think at this point the wets will be quicker. But does it justify that extra pit stop? Because remember, the pit lane time loss here is 27.2 seconds. It's an awful lot of time. I think most drivers will just be waiting. We're just staying out. We're waiting for the safety car. That's what we're going to switch.
Yeah, and obviously no one wants to cause that safety car. So, yeah, we'll see who's the unlucky one to do that. But gaps are starting to close back down. El Rey, with all the fighting for P6 and P7, El Rey has managed to catch 2 seconds on that lap. And he's looking to close that gap down and hopefully go for an overtake on Stephen Vasso. As the gaps have started to form within the top 7, as it is quite a bit of a train from P9 all the way down to P17, P18 even. They're all just in a big train, and then the leaders are quite a few seconds up the road. You know, there's a 3-second gap from the fake TB and Dennis to Meow, and then Meow is another 3 seconds ahead of Herman and Stefan. As I see Herman absolutely struggling in these conditions. Whatever conditions it is, it doesn't look like it's particularly comfortable for any driver, as you don't really get to drive a street circuit whilst it's raining all that often. You know, however much stress you have trying not to crash these and not go into a wall, and also be fast. When it's raining, that difficulty increases from an 8 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. The only thing that's worse is if you get flipping blindfolded or something. Or it potentially turns full wet, which I think it definitely has at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if we're on board with Brandon Clark, if you just see the rain pouring down, it's coming down so heavily, I don't think I've seen it ever this crazy. Look at that! So much oversteer in turn 19 as well. The driver's really struggling to keeping that car on track. We can definitely notice that Brandon is quite a bit quicker than Ben Choliop. Has a little moment there in turn 4, but also exit for Ben not too great, as Elku has managed to get his way past Nicolino. But this is what you get. A lot of drivers so close to one another, held back by the RB driver, and that pretty much forces them into one another and means more overtakes are going to happen. As we see here, Nicolino wants to get back onto Elku. They're pretty much ghosted into one another. Nicolino now going a little bit wide, and that will finally give Elku that position, as Sarpoli has got a 3-second time penalty for track limits. We will likely see more with the amount of rain that is currently pouring down. And further up ahead, actually, the fake is getting much closer to Dennis Langrock. That gap now down to about half a second. Up ahead, Takubi's lost significant amount of time onto Eni, who is at 2.6 second lead, which is quite significant in the F1 esports scene, as Fake having a little bit of an issue turning his car into turn 14 there as he goes back onto the second back straight. And it's actually Nicolino who's gone the move back down. Side by side he goes with Elku, and he's gone the move down once more. The re-overtake has been done. A little bit of a sloppy entry into 14 that will allow the other drivers to catch up with him ever so more, as Brandon up ahead still stuck behind Ben Shawley, and I think we have to give credits to Ben for that. Ben definitely is struggling in these conditions. The drivers behind him are quite a bit quicker, but they can't get past him.
I mean, yeah, obviously when you have a pace disadvantage, you don't care how much time you lose to the cars ahead. All you care about is, right, I want to keep this track position. I want to keep myself in the points. Let's just defend. I don't care if they complain that I've lost time to the cars ahead. I'm not fighting the cars ahead. I'm fighting the cars behind me. And I'm trying to keep them back. So that's kind of what he's doing. And so far he's doing a pretty good job, you know. He has obviously allowed El Rey to get ahead and pull away. But so far, he's defending really nicely from Brendan and soon to be Nicolino as well.
Yeah, Nicolino's still about a second away as we're currently watching the fight for P16, where that might not seem too important. They're fighting quite heavily for it, and for now it's Kevin West who manages to stay ahead with Pikarczyk, with Mr. Pike starting to build a little bit of a gap onto them. Further up ahead, Jack Humphreys is getting closer to the back of the Kick Sauber of Elku. That gap now about 4/10. Elku also getting back within range of Nicolino. Brandon still within 3/10 of Ben. El Reguiri very close now to Stephen Vasson. I think we should keep an eye on that, because there, I think El Reguiri might go for a move just here now and then, but he will need to wait a little bit more. Stephen also struggling a little bit more. I think El Rey might just be a little bit quicker. If he can get a nice way round of 17 and 18, Stephen struggling a little bit more there. Will this be the move for El Reguiri? He's gonna go for it. He is alongside the LP driver, and he's gone past. That's P7 for El Reguiri. A great race for him so far. 7 positions gained. Only Nicolino's doing better on that front with 9 gained, but he's still outside of points. So the Haas driver really making way. And now it's just 1 second to the driver up ahead, and that is the Red Bull for Herman Polyakov. So there's still more to gain. And as for the Fake, he stays within those 4/10s of Dennis Langrock as well. But same thing for him. He just can't get past.
Yeah, so Eni is still in P1. Sadly, unfortunately, retires in the pits. Does not think there's gonna be another safety car. Of course, with that 3 seconds, you can't really do much. It's really difficult track conditions. If you don't feel like it, just go into the pits, chill out, and wait for the better race that is to come next week. Hopefully. Hopefully better race, obviously. The gap now to Tehubi is 4 seconds. And it's only extending lap by lap. Eni has got this race spot on under control. But Tehubi is losing more and more time. And the guys behind him are starting to catch this fastest lap of the race, 40.8. Yeah, the rain has definitely calmed down a bit, as it is now probably starting to dry up from these full wet conditions that we had in the beginning around lap 8. But yeah, Inters are starting to get faster, so we'll see the fastest lap time probably improve even more as the laps go on. But yeah, the Fake now is really close to Dennis. Is he gonna go for a move, or is he just gonna stay behind?
El Rey in the meantime goes for a move. Oh, there's a lot of contact. Both of the drivers going off the track. El Reguiri does get up ahead, but that did not seem like the cleanest of moves onto Herman, who immediately is under pressure by Steven Vasso. But we see so much going on, and as you rightfully mentioned, Yuvuda, the rain is starting to slow down a little bit. I think the drivers have decided, okay, we're going to stay this out, even though the wets will be the better tires now. We can probably extend our stint on the mediums long, on the inters long enough, sorry, to just keep it on there, hope for a crossover point into the dry weather tires, or just go for some new inters. I do think they will come in again. I don't see them finishing the race on pretty much 29, 30, 31 lap old inters. It is a big struggle, but the driver so far who's making the most out of it is Eddie. He once again sets the fastest lap time. That's a 39.4. Takubi in comparison does a 140.3. That's 9/10 that Annie is quicker. And as for the drivers behind, Miao does a 39.9. That's also 5/10. The Fake now picks up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Annie really flying down the track, and he will be the man to beat tonight.
Yeah, it looks great. The car just looks on rails. So far, great in terms of setup. Jack Humphries gets 3-second time penalty as well. I mean, track limits do get more difficult with rain as opposed to the dry, because some parts of the track are wetter than others, obviously. So you don't really know how much grip you're gonna have going into the corner. You're sort of guessing a little bit. And for quite a long track, 5 kilometers, it's a little bit of a challenge to not get 3 seconds. But you know, if you do, you still got a gap. Like, the Fake obviously has 3 seconds, but the gap between him and Miao is 4 seconds, so he wouldn't even lose a place. All he really loses is a chance to fight to the cars ahead. But as for Jack Humphries, this 3 seconds will go a lot further, because you know, he's in the DRS train. Oh, Nicolino's out. Oh no, safety car.
It's a virtual safety car though.
Oh yeah, VSC. Okay, well, that is absolutely terrible for Annie. He has gone past the pits.
Actually, a lot of drivers are just staying out. Only the Fake has gone in so far. Elray is staying out. Herman's staying out. Most of the drivers actually have opted to stay out. It is the Fake, one of the few, who has come in. So I think these drivers know that's going to dry up at some point, because they don't want to go for a switch. Elko has gone for a pit as well. Not surprised by that. He was really struggling on those inters. I think he will feel more comfortable around the back on fresher tires. And for Mr. Pike as well, already down so far down the order, might as well go for a pit stop here. Fresher tires, even though it's an extra pit stop, you won't really lose more than 1 or 2 positions. And to be fair, for the likes of Picarchi has it, maybe Kevin West as well, it would have been more ideal just to go for the pit stop. You will lose a lot of time. Still virtual safety car though, but I think in the end, with how the weather conditions are like, you are going to catch up quite significantly. As Brandon Clark has picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. The race, meantime, has resumed. And what we can see, the Fake has actually only dropped down to P10, so that is not too much. There is still quite a bit of time to catch up though, because the gap from Regueri to Miao 6 seconds, from Miao to Dennis is 5.2, but I think the Fake will be quite a lot quicker now, and let's see how big of an impact those new intermediate tires have, as we see Brandon have a huge moment coming out of turn 12.
Yeah, I mean, both him and Ben obviously picked up a drive-through at the end of the VSC period, so the Fake will have a clean gap to P7, Steven Vasso up ahead, because the 2P guys have a drive-through, and they're probably just gonna pull into the box at the end of this lap, just to clear that up, as if there is a safety car, I do not think you can serve a drive-through as well. Yeah, it has to be green flag conditions, and yeah, unlucky. You know, you're trying to maximize the delta without getting into the red territory on the VSC restart. You want to maximize the minimize the loss that you're gonna have. There's sometimes that just gets a bit too fine. You cut it a bit too fine, and you gotta drive through. It happens. It's a part of the sport. It's a part of safety cars.
Oh,
Elku,
what a move.
damn.
What a
What a
move
move from the
by the
fake.
fake. Yeah, you could just
Yeah.
see how much of an impact these newer tires have. Oh, he almost bends the car there into the wall, but keeps it out of the wall in turn 9. That is very nicely done. Also had a moment before in turn 5. But we see that he can attack the corners just so much more. He can brake later. He can take more speed into the corners and just gain a few tens. I think at this rate, the car's definitely about a second and a half quicker compared to all the other drivers. That gives him the upper hand, and if the rain is going to stay out, and we won't have any more safety cars, the fake might have just pulled off a masterclass, and he can do a 138.7. I think the fake might even be quicker despite having to go for some overtakes here, but he's already past Steven Vasso. So he's already up in P7, wasn't P4 before, so he's only lost 3 positions, but how quick is this lap going to be? Is he going to be quicker than El Reguiri, who's now set the fastest lap time? Look at that, a 36.7. That's 1.8 on the entire field, and he's had to do 2 overtakes. Those new inters are really sending him flying around the track, and it will only take about a lap to get to the back of Herman Poliakov if he cannot get past him at the end of lap 19.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think for everyone, it was if there isn't a safety car, not boxing is gonna turn out to be a strategy blunder. But I guess they're just hoping for a real safety car, not a virtual. So yeah, if there isn't, oh my, what a! I mean, the fake definitely lost a bit. But he had such a huge slide coming out of turn 9. And he still didn't even lose time to the Kaiser ahead. Like, the pace difference is insane. You know, the tire life, if you look at it, it is absolutely detrimental. 17 laps of intermediates for everyone, apart from the fake and Mr. Pike, which is the only ones. But the track is drying up, that's what I can tell you. Because Elko and Hazev, you know, they're down, but they've already boxed for the mediums. And they're just waiting for the track to dry up. I think it's still intermediates, as it is still raining, so I don't really get what's going on with their tire choices, but whatever, they know best, I guess.
Oh, here goes the fake then, onto Herman, and he's gone past into turn 1, so once again gained a lot of time. But we have to keep an eye on what the guys on the mediums are going to do, which you rightfully called out. Alco seems to be quicker than Ben Shawley, but again, Ben is also on 17 lap old Inter, so it is understandable that he's quicker. It looks like we're nearing the crossover point though, seeing that they're gaining a little bit of time. But they need to be setting fastest lap times. As soon as they're setting fastest lap times, that's when the other drivers know, hey, taking a pit stop now, go to the dry tires, that will be the best option. And seeing how many laps are left, I think most drivers are going to swap to the mediums. Or if there is just only a few laps remaining, they might even go for the softs. But I think for the softs, you really need to stop so late, and I don't think you can make the most out of it with the time that you're going to get. So I think stopping for mediums within about 3 laps would be most ideal. Elko is getting a lot quicker though. Let's see what his sector times are, because that is something that I'm interested in right now. He was a second up on his own lap time in sector 1, so this should be the lap time where he needs to and can string it all together. He is quicker than Ben, as I mentioned, but here we go. DRS has been enabled. That is the cue that the option tires, the prime tires, are quicker than your intermediates. That should also be the call for the drivers up ahead. But will it be the call for Eddie to go for a pit stop? I think he should wait. Eddie has the option to wait just a little bit more. And as soon as the other drivers behind him are going to come in, the fake has actually come in. He is going to switch to the inters as one of the first. So he's made an extra pit stop. And he's going to try and continue on dries.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you see that DRS is enabled, you immediately thinking like, okay, surely it's dry now. Surely. Yeah, Mr. Pike fastest lap, 35.3. Track is drying up quite a lot. And at a very, very fast rate as well. So I believe within a lap or two, it's going to be completely dry.
Yep.
Why is there is literally no water at this point? Has the track just dried up within half a lap? Like, it's now completely dry.
And the rain's gone as well. I think this should be the call for any two to head into the pit lane, and with 10 laps to go, it is a safe stop to make and to switch over to the mediums. He has really controlled the race so far perfectly. Needs to make sure, don't overshoot, don't get speeding in the pit lane, just take it slowly here. Oh, almost sends it into the wall there, but keeps it nice and clean. And he does what he needs to do, although I'm pretty sure he would have gotten a little bit scared there as he saw that wall come a little bit closer than he perhaps would have liked. In the meantime, the fake is getting closer to the back of Mr. Pike's car. Mr. Pike losing a lot of time. Dennis Langrock, he's actually not gone past.
Meow's gonna get held up. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Meow gets held up indeed a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think he's even losing a position here. He's still up in P4. El Riguiri has not gone past, so still the same position. A little bit of time lost indeed, as you correctly mentioned. But here comes the fake actually, round the outside. How close is he going to get? He's actually going to be ahead of Meow, so an extra pit stop. And he's still ahead of the drivers that he dispatched before. But keep in mind, he's got a 3-second time penalty. He needs to gain a lot on all the other drivers. And that will be more difficult, especially because the drivers behind him are going to have DRS. I think we're pretty much going to get fights for P4 and for P2. But for the rest, the gaps are just too big. And this is great news for Annie. He's got 9 seconds to work with and 9 laps to go. As long as he just keeps it nice and tidy on the track, he's going to win the race here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have to risk it. You already got a 9-second gap. Even if you lose a second per lap, you still effectively gonna win the race. So yeah, so far it looks great for Annie to take the win. As Pikachu picks up another 3-second time penalty. 4 drivers have got one, which, to be fair, is pretty good in terms of numbers. I believe it's not that difficult to finish a race without getting one, particularly Singapore. So yeah, but the fake has warmer tires, of course, compared to Meow. So maybe he can try and just slingshot from the DRS, but it does not look like that it will be the case. Yeah, lap times are gonna be stumbling down almost into the 1:20 at this point, which is definitely more like what the race pace was to be predicted, I believe. Ideal laps, it's still a little bit damp, grip is not very optimal. It's gonna be drying up more and more. Lap times are gonna be dropping. Yeah, Annie has pulled another second. 10 seconds is the gap now between him and Tehubi in P2. And that is absolutely insane. And Dennis has also gotten right to the gearbox of Tehubi. Let's see if he's gonna go for a move. Obviously, he's gonna get pulled along because of the DRS. But he's got more battery to work with as well. So we'll see when he goes for that move, as he definitely seems to have a bit better, big gap in terms of pace. Another fastest lap.
That's one of the Haas drivers who's had a little bit of a moment, and it looks like it was Elku. Does he have any damage to his front wing? It looks like he's missing a front wing end plate indeed, so that would send him into the pit lane once more. And that means that his hopes for potential points here tonight seem to be falling into the water, despite there not being any water left on the track, of course. As Dennis Langrock, we go on board with once more, is within 4/10 of Takubi up ahead. He does have that DRS, but he can't get close enough to mount an overtake, at least for a time being, although he seems to be just a tad quicker than Takubi up ahead. But I think that difference is less than about a tenth of a second, as Aoku has picked up a 3-second time penalty for track limits, as he's actually decided to continue despite having that front wing end plate damage. But I think at this point it doesn't matter too much if he continues or if he's just going to hold it. Has in the meantime, very close to the back of Kevin West. They're fighting for P12. A lot of fights going on around the track, but the main fights are starting to revolve around P4. The fake, 5 tenths ahead of Meow, then it's 3 tenths to Herman, and another 3 tenths to El Riguiri. So 4 drivers currently fighting for P4. 4 different constructors as well. That's always nice to see. But it will be a big fight down to the wire. And the one that's going to struggle the most with that is going to be the fake, because he's also got 3 seconds to his name.
Yeah, and particularly when there's a DRS train and you're leading it, if you have a 3-second, that would put you down so much more than if there was everyone just outside the 1-second DRS window. Like, this 3 seconds will put you down from P4 all the way down to P7. It's just not what you want to have. As Ben Shorley...
That's a safety car. Oh, that's so bad for Eddie. Eddie's just gone up to 12 seconds and we have a full safety car. That's heartbreak for him. As for the other drivers, there's a few drivers with penalties. For the fake, for Jack Humphreys, for Steven Vasso, for Picard Shoots, and for Elku. This is also terrible news, although Elku can change his front wing. But for the other drivers without penalties, this is great news. But for Eddie, it means he suddenly has to fight for a race win, because he had it in the bag. He didn't have to worry about anyone. But now it's going to be a 4 to 5 lap shootout by the drivers up ahead. And all of a sudden, I think it's going to be about 6 drivers that are going to contest for a win.
Yeah. We're essentially gonna have a 5-lapper with the soft to decide the race win. And that is certainly a really fun way to end off this Singapore Grand Prix. What have we not had? Obviously, we had a safety car at 30 seconds into the race. We had rain, we had enters, we had full wet conditions, we had another safety car, and now we're gonna have a 5-lapper to effective one. Not even a 5-lapper, it's gonna be like a 3-lapper, shortest distance that you can do in the F1 game, with the softs to decide the race win. And yeah, but Meow is definitely gonna get screwed up a bit here with the pit stops.
Yeah, he has to wait. It just costs him like 2 or 3 tenths. It doesn't cost him much, so that is very fortunate for him. He's now going to be leaving that pit lane as he teleports out a bit. He has lost a little bit of position, a little bit of track position, I believe. 2 drivers actually have continued. El Riguiri and Picarchich have decided to just go for it and continue. Will that be the best option? I'm not sure. But for Alray, remember, he was in P7 or P8 and he was stuck in a DRS train. He now finds himself in the lead. I think Annie he will need to let go, but Picard behind is going to be a buffer for him as well. So I think for Alray, not stopping here is going to give him a better position than stopping from P7.
Yeah, and then there's also the argument, like, when the safety car comes in at the end of next lap, you're only gonna have 3 or 4 laps of racing, and the softs, yeah, they're gonna be faster, but with each lap they're obviously gonna get slower compared to the mediums, and there just isn't enough, there aren't enough laps till the end to justify pitting alongside everyone else. So you just decided, you know what, why not, I will be leading. And yeah, I just think it's a great strategy call, honestly. Especially considering that he was in P7, I believe. You know, you're gonna be deciding when they're gonna go. You're gonna decide what happens on the restart. And yeah. Interestingly though, both ET8s are teammates in P3 and P4. So we'll see if he decides to let Tehubi go and hold everyone else Maybe play a bit of a team game. That would be interesting, certainly.
Well, they should for sure. I mean, Prikacic also has a 3-second time penalty to his name. If he lets Takubi go, holds up Dennis just enough, then it allows Takubi to get a little bit of a window, contest Annie and El Reguiri for the race win. And yeah, just a better podium position than just having to fight with Dennis and maybe not get a podium position at all, because Prikacic definitely is going to lose a few positions. El Rey, I think a few as well, but it also depends on how quickly Prikacic is going to lose. As we know, DRS needs a lap to be activated, so we will have 4 laps of racing, so 28, 9, 30, and 31. With DRS, there will be 3 laps that you will have that DRS will actually be activated, so that will be when Prikacic and El Rey are going to be struggling a little bit more. I think any will be past El Rey fairly quickly because he's shown to be having so much more race trim speed than all the other drivers. And if he can pull outside of that 1 second window early enough, I don't think he's going to be contested enough for that race win. I think overall it's going to be very hard to contest him for a race win. But it's all going to come down on how this safety car is going to end. It's definitely going to end at the end of this lap. We will have 4 laps of full action, and it will be El Reguiri who is going to resume with us, as he's currently our race leader.
Yeah, and honestly, it's gonna be a fantastic end to the race. Some people have got a 3-second time penalty, and that is gonna be a reason why they wouldn't want to fight particularly much, because they want to minimize the time that they lose on track. Maybe it gains them that 2-3 tenths at the end of the race to keep ahead of someone that is more towards the back. You don't want to be fighting for track position because you're effectively 3 seconds behind, even if on track you're right next to each other. But yeah, also safety car is not going to be at the end of this lap because Brendan Clark and Elko did not catch up. So that is 1 lap less that El Reguiri has to make towards the end of the race. And so far, it's 3 laps of racing that we're gonna have. It looking like more and more of a strategy masterclass so far.
Well, this is definitely good news for him. If we look at the positions change, he's currently gained 13 positions. He started in P14, and he's now fighting for a potential race win, or at least a podium. That seems to be quite certain. And he's lost 1. Prikacic is up by 6. Dennis and the Fake up by 2. Herman up by 3. Miao, Jack Humphries, Stephen Vassell lost quite a few positions. It's Kevin West who's also won 4, and Elko who's gone 2 gained, as Mr. Pike has lost 8 after a pretty good qualifying with a race that definitely did not go his way, and will need to fight tooth and nail if he wants to get any points on the board. But the good news for Mr. Pike, there's 4 drivers up ahead that have a penalty. If all those penalty drivers stay within 3 seconds of him, he's promoted up to P10 already. So it's definitely possible for him to still get points. For Elku, that seems to be out of the question. For Brandon Clark, still a little bit of a chance there for him. But yeah, we'll have to see how that is going to pan out in the end. I think the biggest question is going to be how long can El Rey and Prikacic hold on to the drivers behind? And will it be a first race win for any? Or will it be a first race win for El Reguiri?
Yeah, and of course, maybe some incidents happen. Maybe one of the drivers behind can snatch a race win or a podium perhaps. Whatever you can get. Everyone is going to be scrambling here for position. Maybe there's an incident that someone at the back can profit and get some decent points, That's always a factor. And yeah. Now we're waiting for the restart, and we'll see when does El Rey decide to go. Does he want to extend this as much as possible? Okay, El, please don't go 40 kilometers an hour, please don't. Lewis Walker's definitely joined the wrong lobby though.
Oh, there
and
he
he's
goes.
decided to go. And he's caught Annie off guard. 4.5 tenths is the gap. Everyone's burning here. Tehubi straight away gets past Pikachu, and now Pikachu is trying to hold everyone behind to, oh my. Dennis, there he goes, down the inside, he's gonna get past, through, and there we go, Dennis is through. Next car to get past Pikachu is Herman Poliaco, but he's half second back. As we have a fight for the lead now. Any and El Rey go side by side through towards turn 9.
Alright, he's through.
Yep.
He's through now, and Alreguri also
Tehubi.
needs to watch out because round the outside comes Takubi.
Oh.
There's a little bit of contact between the drivers, but also Takubi is through, and Alreguri is already dropped 2 positions. Dennis Langrock has gone past Pikarczyk. Herman is still stuck behind him. A late send down the inside from Jack Humphreys, who's now ahead of Meow. There's so much action going on right now as Dennis Langrock is getting closer and closer to the back of that Haas. As for Annie, he needs to make sure that he gets a second, but look at that, round the outside already. Dennis has so much more overspeed, and Alray has already been demoted back to P4 and outside the podium positions. Good news for him though, the next driver on the line, Pikarczyk, is on the same set of strategy. He is also on the medium, so will not have to worry about him too much. On the other hand, Pikarczyk is under pressure, a lot of pressure, by Herman Poliakov, who's currently in P6. And look at that, almost wants to go for a move into turn 3. Still stays behind for the time being. Will need to line it up nicely coming out of turn 4. And then on this back straight, he can go for the overtake onto Pikarczyk. Will it be enough? Using quite a bit of battery to get closer. But it looks like he's already decided, I'm not going to get past. I will need to wait a little bit more. A moment by Alray, who goes off the track just a bit. Does not catch track limits as a result. That's good news. Herman goes a little bit too wide. And that almost opens up the door for Jack Humphreys. So much going on here. Meow now getting close to Jack Humphreys as well. And it looks like the fight for P5 really is starting to kick off with the Fig going for a very late lunge. And that cost him a position onto Steven Vasso.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's trying to just get as much track position as they can. Obviously, 1 lap remaining of the race, so whoever finishes on track will get more points. So that is what they're aiming for. Annie is already just about 1 second clear of Tehubi. Tehubi is 1 second clear of Dennis, and Dennis is a second clear of El Rey, so the gaps at the front are set. They are not going to change for this last lap. But everyone else at the back, starting from P5 all the way to P13, 14, in fact, even just all the way down to P16, everyone can get a few places here because of the 3-second time penalties for several drivers.
Oh, here
Let's
comes
see who's
Herman
gonna
then.
be able.
He is so close to the back of Pikarczyk, but look at that. He's using all the overtake that he can use. All the overtake he can burn. It's a late send down the inside for Pikarczyk. Almost the Haas driver going a little bit too wide. Herman now almost
Jack
trying to
goes
outbrake,
on
but
the
look at that.
inside.
Jack just sends it past down the inside. Now the inside line once again for Herman, but he almost punts a driver into the wall. There's contact, but it's Jack Humphreys who's through, and Herman who has to settle for 7th for now.
Oh yeah, but I don't really understand that because Jack already has a penalty, so even if he's ahead of him on track, he's still gonna get dropped back a lot. Like, everyone who has a 3-second here is gonna get pulled away to the back, like P16, P17. Oh no! And Meow's just taken out Herman. That is not what you wanna see. Herman drops all the way from P7 to P12 on the last lap, and that is not what you want to see. But we got Annie, who's gonna come across the line and win in the predominant fashion.
Oh, and last corner move by Meow. He gets past Pikarczyk. Meow now still through in 5th with all the penalties applied. Everyone across the line. We almost didn't catch Annie, who gets a masterclass of a race. And let's be real, if there was one driver that deserved to win it, it was Annie. Great qualifying all the way through. Race pace was so good. At some point, 12 seconds ahead of all of his competitors. And still in those final few laps, the final 3 laps, still managing to pull enough of a gap to keep Takubi out of the DRS. Look at that, still finishes 2 seconds up ahead. Dennis Langrock with a great recovery, he's in third, but El Rey with the late call on strategy, getting him from 7th up into 4th, staying out on the final safety car from P14 all the way to 4th in the grid. Then it's Meow, Miska Haikala, Kevin West with a great P7 from 16 on the grid. Herman still comes through in 8th despite that late contact with Meow. Then it's Hazit, and final point still for Mr. Pike in P10. Finishing outside the points then, Jack Humphreys in 11th, followed by Brandon Clark, Picarchik, Stephen Vasso, the fake TV, Elku, and then our DNS Ben Shawley, Nicolino, Sarpoli, and Isfan Tamasi. But we've had a lot going on, and I think in terms of weather, Jivodar, it was one of the most interesting races to watch out for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you had every condition. You had dry, you had inter, you had wet, and then back to dry. It doesn't get more interesting than this, especially considering the tire choices. Everyone opted to stay out on the intermediate when it was full wet conditions. It was just so interesting with the safety cars. Obviously, a lot of fighting on track. At the end, you had another safety car that just put everyone side by side within a single train. You had 3 laps on the softs to decide. You had people on the mediums opting to stay out in their trap position. Obviously, great strategy from El Rey, P4 from P14 on the grid. But yeah, ultimately, it's still the faster driver tonight that wins it. Great race and great debut in WOR4 for Rennie. It doesn't get better than this. Fastest lap of the race. 3/10 clear of Tehubi's fastest lap. And then he takes home 26 points, plus the pole position. He doesn't get better than this for any great race.
And even better, he's a reserve driver. He came in tonight as a stand-in.
Yeah.
He gets pole position by 2.5 tenths, fastest lap, race win, and in quite dominant fashion as well. So great work all the way through. As for Dennis Langrock, he was already in the lead of the championship. Joel Lindstrom was second, also reserve driver, didn't participate. As for all the other drivers that are pretty much in the top 10 even, it was only Meow who was able to score significant points. So Dennis Langrock really did a great job in extending his championship lead here with a P3 tonight. Just keeping it clean, but getting a great result. And Takubi didn't have any points. He finished in P2. Yeah, obviously, because it was the first race for any, he didn't get any points. And drivers behind being Nicolino didn't score much. Meow did score significantly. Elku didn't score. Kevin West, who had 8 points so far with the 6th place, does score a little bit. Miska Haikala scores a bit. Herman scores a little bit. Mr. Pike only scores 1. Really, the drivers that were far up ahead mostly didn't score that much. The only driver he's managed to do so is Dennis. And yeah, with that, he's going to be on 40 points, so he'll be clear probably about 25 points compared to all the rest of the field. That's great.
Yeah, honestly, like at the front in the driving standings so far, you're gonna have 2 reserves beating 90% of the drivers. That is very interesting indeed. You know, I've seen reserves beat and almost be championship contenders. So yeah, this is gonna be very interesting to see. Obviously, he has great pace. We'll see if they give him a seat full time, because what he showed tonight is certainly a very big sort of very big in terms of pace, very big in terms of qualifying position. Obviously, pole by 3/10. It's not pole position by like half a tenth. It's pole position, clear 3/10. That is insane. You don't see that too often, especially on the street circuit that is inevitably capped by walls on each side. You can't just gain all that because of certain setup, for example. You just gotta be fully on it. And he showed that he can do great tonight. And for the future, he definitely looks like he's gonna be certainly in the top 5 in terms of WOR pace.
Yeah, he definitely showed that tonight. He was up a bit on pretty much the entire field, and I do hope that he's going to be making some more appearances during this season. His main championship competitor, at least so far, and also our championship leader, is currently waiting for us in the interview box. So, in a moment, we're going to move in Dennis Langrock and start with the interviews. As you know, we do interviews for our top 3, so Dennis is welcome. And also will be welcome, of course, our drivers in P2 and P3, which were, of course, your race winner. That will be Eddie. And second, that came round to Kubi, if they're ready to do interviews. But we already have here Dennis Langrock in the commentary box. Last week out, it was P1. Tonight, it's P3. Our championship leader for Williams, it's Dennis Langrock.
Hello, great to be back on the podium again.
What do you mean be back? You weren't even outside the podium at all. You
Yeah,
started in P7 and you still somehow just crawl your way back up to a podium. You're kind of like one of those drivers that you don't seem to just have a bad race at all.
yeah, it was quite disappointed because my quali was not that good, and yeah, only P3 could have done it better, but it's okay.
Yeah, still leading the championship. How can you complain?
Yeah, I'm happy that I am still leading, and Mui got P5, so it's not bad for Williams constructors, and yeah.
So far, it certainly does look great. How was it full wet conditions around like lap 10 when you guys were on the Inters? Because certainly in the commentary box, it looked like it was pouring out
Yeah,
there on the track.
that can be, I don't know it right now, but it feels very slippery. Had much problems also with the setup. It doesn't work like I want to. Had much slippery and drifting and just not good. Also in the inter conditions, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was pretty much struggling. You don't really practice wet conditions on a street circuit, do you?
Yeah.
Especially in Singapore, considering it doesn't really rain that often. The only real full wet race that we had was 2017 in real life, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Great result for you. Congrats on the podium. Even
Thank
though
you.
obviously you can do better, but hey, podium, 100% podium so far. Looks great in terms of pace.
Yeah. Next race, Vegas.
Oh,
I'm kind of hyped of the DRS trains at the end, but DRS games will be crazy in Vegas, but it's normal in the F1 game, so just be P2 and then open the DRS.
just be pizza and hope you don't get taken out.
Yeah.
That seems to be the strategy for next week indeed. But to go back to the race here, tonight you had quite a few fights going out throughout the race. You had some fights with the Ferrari of the fake TB and later on in the race with Takubi. Was there ever a point you thought, okay, I can do it a little bit better than the P3 that I finished just now? Or were the drivers up ahead just a bit too quick for you?
No, like I even said, I was quite disappointed because the quali pace was not that good, only 0.7, and yeah, my pace in the rain was not that good. So the first driver, I think it was, who was it in the P1?
It was any.
Any was cooking. He was very good pace, so congrats to him. And maybe I have, if no safety car came out, maybe for a P2 fight, but yeah, very close.
Alright, and then, yeah, with the safety cars, of course, coming through, there was quite a bit of chaos. We saw, at least for the last safety car, a few drivers went for a different strategy where you guys opted to go in for the softs. They stayed out for the mediums. For some, it worked out. For some, it didn't work out that much. Was it really a gamble that you need to take there, or was it a clear decision that you need to go for softs?
It was a big gamble for me. I was thinking about staying out maybe on the mediums, but then I decided to go softs and saw people behind me put it, and yeah, it was clearly a good decision to make, and yeah, it worked well.
That worked more than well enough to get a podium for tonight. If the results that are, of course, still provisional stay as they are, that means that you are going to get another 15 points, moving you up to 40 points in the standings. And there will be two drivers that are going to be in P2. That will be your teammate Meow, who's going to move up to 25 points. And it will also be race winner tonight, Annie, who's going to move up to 25. So, all things considered, you should have a 15-point gap after two races. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's good. So no, I can chill a little bit. No, no, every time 100%, and yeah, it's good to have a little bit puffer, but yeah, we will see next race. I will do my best, and yeah.
Yeah, before the Christmas break, we still have quite a few more rounds to go next week. As you rightfully mentioned, we have Vegas. Then we have races back to back in Silverstone, Zandvoort, and around the Hungaroring. Out of those four tracks, which one's your favorite?
Um, I think Netherlands will be the best, like I last time said, but like Singapore and Vegas are tracks I never drove in F1, only in time trials. So Vegas is one track maybe I can better, but Singapore was completely not my track like the others. So now it will be better, I think,
All right,
with
well, that
quali.
rounds off the questions, at least from my part. Anything you want to add, Yivadar?
No, really. Do you? One question. Firstly, do you think the restart was actually dangerous from El Rey? Because I see people definitely complaining about that.
Yeah, for me it was very dangerous, and he was completely slowing down and
Yeah, well,
dri
40 kilometers, like that is
Yes.
nothing.
No, that you cannot do this in the safety car restart, and nearly I lost my front wing, and the driver behind me nearly lost his front wing because we all brake checked us, and yeah, he cannot do this for real. It's
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Pike obviously picked up like 8 penalty points and El Rey picked up 5, so he's definitely looking to catch back up to the leading position in terms of penalty points, you know?
yes,
If El Rey can't lead the Drivers' Champions, he can lead the Destructors' Championship.
yes.
Pretty good. At least it's something.
Well,
Oh,
thankfully for you, Dennis, your eyes will be fully set on that title for season 19 here in T4. There's still quite a few races to go, but so far the start of the season has been great. Want to congratulate you once more on your podium tonight, and keep it up. We might see you in the commentary box again next week.
Yes, thank you for commentating also, and have a good night. See you next week.
Have a good night
good
indeed.
night.
Bye bye.
Good night, Pookie.
Bye bye.
All right, and with that, we have concluded the interviews for tonight. Tikubi and Annie are at least not waiting for an interview tonight, so that will be it for today. We've had a very interesting race all the way throughout. We've had a qualifying with a few unexpected drivers coming through. We went from a very early safety car to rain under the safety car, no safety cars whatsoever during the rain, and then two more late safety cars to spicing things up. I think we've seen a Singapore
And
Grand
the
Prix
VSC.
that had everything, Ivadar.
Yeah, and the VSC. Everything. That was one of the most entertaining races I've seen. Especially with the condition changes. Like, you even have full wet at some point. That is great to see in terms of pace. For the drivers, obviously, with the changes of conditions, there are obviously changes in pace. Some people just feel a bit more comfortable in the rain compared to others, and yeah, that really just closes the gap even more. Well, for some it closes it, for others it definitely adds a bit of a skill barrier, but whatever you can do, you're still trying to do your best. Whatever you can achieve. So far, it looked great from the onboards that I saw personally. It's a little bit cleaner of standards is definitely gonna be appreciated. But hey, it's still great,
Yeah, I
and
think all
can't
things
wait for
considered,
Vegas.
compared to last week, it was definitely fairly clean for the Singapore race. So it's definitely good to see, especially during the rain. The drivers did that very, very well. But of course, next week out, we will be heading to Vegas, and that's a track where, where contact is definitely something that you do expect to see quite a bit.
Yeah, and the DRS games especially around such a long back straight, it's like one of the longest on the calendar, and you just cannot really afford to not have DRS. Obviously, they did shorten the DRS straight, like the part of the straight that has the DRS. So now it's not that long, but the straight itself is still very long, and overtaking opportunities are everywhere. Into turn one, into turn three, turn four, into turn five, six, the chicane. It will be one of the most interesting races of the season, as I predicted in round one.
Well, we're going to find out all about Vegas next week. For tonight, at least, this was it. So, hope you all enjoyed the race as much as we did. We'll be looking into the steward reports as well as we resume next week. And yeah, next week, Vegas will be back at the same time. That will be on the 25th of November, once again at 7 p.m. British Standard Time. That's 8 p.m. For the rest of you Europeans. And I'll be back for round 3 of WOR Season 19 here at PC Tier 4, where we resume in Vegas. Have a good one tonight, and see you then.